fact of the matter is, it's logical to assume that I'm smarter than other people as the son of two doctors. My dad came here as a refugee penniless, became a brain surgeon in the 60s or so, when it wasn't popular for minorities to be brain surgeons. It was basically unheard of, and it was unheard of for someone exactly like him. He outperformed everyone in his generation. My mom's a doctor also. It's logical to assume that I'm smarter than everyone else. Okay? So when I say this, keep that in mind. The person who's logically smarter than everyone else, okay, is telling you that your cultures are wrong. You are all in murder, rape, abuse, drug, rob cultures. Why? Because of these two words. Listen very carefully. Spectrum and complicity. Say these two words with me. Spectrum and complicity. Okay? So just because you aren't convicted for it doesn't mean you're not complicit. This guard in Auschwitz was recently convicted of 300,000 counts of complicity, being accomplice to commit murder. Being accomplice in murder. Why is this? Because there's a spectrum of guilt and there's complicity. So what are your cultural values? It's being complicit with the corporate state, the government, govern and meant. If your culture is allowed in a country with a corrupt government, then it is an evil culture. My dad is Nigerian. My mom is white. They were given a hard time when they first got together. It was in the Detroit area. Bunch of racist people. They had race riots there. Around the time my dad got here. It was a racist place. Okay? His culture was not allowed. It was not approved of by society. I'm persecuted. My culture, my top martial arts, Royal African Falcon, top martial artist, son of God culture is not allowed. It's part of their cultural values to not allow moral precision. Everyone who's in a culture that is allowed is guilty of being complicit with the greater murder, rape, abuse, drug, rob culture of the global government, of their local government, etc. There's no other way it could be. It is impossible for any government in the world to allow for a decent culture or a decent person. They persecute and kill them. I'm being persecuted and in the process of being killed. I expect to be dead by the end of the year 2023. Okay? They do bitch shit like change my voice and make it harder for me to look presentable. It's a long story why that is. Okay? So the cultural values make it clear, especially when they wage a war for their cultural values, that this is so. The cultural values they want to spread are these things. No decent person reproduces. No decent person, except for my parents, because they felt responsibility as they were smarter than everyone else in a moral way. Not the average person with their PhD or masters or bachelors. There's countless of those guys. They're basically all idiots. Okay? That's important to make that distinction. Number 3, when we look at the Western governments of the world, where does communism come from? It comes from Germany. Okay, Marx and Engels. It spread to Russia and Cuba and Korea and so on and so forth, and China, but it comes from the West. Now, what is the root of Western education and the what is the father, what is the parent of communism and capitalism, crony capitalism, in their current form? It is the Greco-Roman cult mysteries. They also governed the mind with cult psychology. Okay, and these guys kept this model. In fact, before psychology was an official subject, it was simply considered a branch of philosophy. And philosophy, Western philosophy, is the child of Western paganism. Socrates and Plato, these guys were philosophers, they were dealing with pagans, and they were discussing their ideas, and it was a bunch of pagans listening to them. Just like when Christianity first spread, on record, it was a bunch of pagans listening to them. So who's Pan? He's a deity of the wine, similar to Dionysus, a deity of wine, and by default, being connected with Dionysus, because his name means all, and Dionysus is a young Zeus. His name means young Zeus, is one translation of it. Okay, he's a deity of all the Greco-Roman deities. Okay, all the rape deities, Zeus was a rapist, Poseidon's a rapist, on and on. A bunch of rape deities who want to control your behavior. They're petty and cruel, according to their own TV show Hercules. They describe the ancient, the gods were petty and cruel. as the show says, and Xena as well. Okay. So Pan, his name backwards is spelled nap, and also panic is where we get this word. Also panties. Okay. So he wants people to be asleep, not necessarily literally. It's a states of consciousness. Psyche is a deity who means mind. States of consciousness. He wants people to be asleep, and he catches them slipping, and then they panic and they run right toward the deities. Either they become a bad person, like the more evil Greco-Roman deities, okay,